Okay, let's dive right into this. We've all been there, right? You are out in the yard, you are making incredible progress on this massive patch of overgrown weeds, the sun is shining, you are totally in the zone, and then suddenly, snap, your trimmer string breaks. Or worse, it gets horribly tangled and your progress just grinds to an absolute halt. It is a universal frustration for literally anyone who does yard work. But today, we are going to fix that forever. Welcome to our deep dive. We're jumping straight into a definitive masterclass on exactly how to change your trimmer string. By the time we wrap up this explainer, you won't just know how to replace it, you're actually going to understand the underlying engineering of how it works. And that is going to make you faster, smarter, and way more efficient out there in the garden. So here is our roadmap for today. First up, we'll tackle the worn-out string problem, then choosing your trimmer string, followed closely by safety and preliminary steps. Next is the step-by-step replacement guide. After that, we'll get into some high-level troubleshooting and pro tips, and we'll wrap it all up with our conclusion and safety disclaimer. All right, section 1, the worn-out string problem. To really get this right, we have to stop looking at the trimmer as just this spinning piece of plastic on a stick. We need to start treating it like the piece of precision engineering it actually is. Ever had your trimmer string snap halfway through a massive yard job? Of course you have. We all know the sheer pain of having to kill the engine, flip this heavy machine over, and wrestle with a tangled mess of nylon while completely covered in grass clippings. It's exhausting. But mastering this skill is so crucial because ignoring it doesn't just waste your weekend time, it's actually actively working against your machine. You see, when a string degrades, it loses its aerodynamic properties. A worn-out, shortened string drastically decreases your cutting efficiency. But here is the kicker. It actually overworks the machine's clutch and reduction gear. Because the engine has to work significantly harder just to cut the same amount of grass, this can lead to overheating and eventually permanent damage to your transmission system. Plus, instead of cleanly slicing the grass, a dull string just sort of batters and crushes the stems. And that's what leaves your lawn looking super ragged, unhealthy, and yellowed on the tips. Moving right along to section 2, choosing your trimmer string. Now we're shifting focus to your actual arsenal, because it's really not just about grabbing whatever spool happens to be cheapest at the hardware store. Let's talk about the physics of string shapes, which engineers call the geometric profile. A round string, well, that's your standard go-to. It lacks sharp edges, which gives it maximum mechanical durability and makes it incredibly easy to wind up inside the spool. However, it does tend to crush grass rather than slice it. Contrast that with a square or pentagonal profile. These have aggressive, sharp edges that chew right through thick, stubborn weeds. The trade-off, they wear out faster and can snap if you hit rocks. Then you have a star-shaped string, which provides a beautifully clean cut, perfect for decorative lawns. And finally, a twisted or spiral string. This one is super cool because the improved aerodynamics can actually reduce noise by up to 50%. Absolutely perfect if you're working in a tight residential neighborhood. But hey, shape it isn't everything. You absolutely must match the string's diameter to your machine's engine power. This is a non-negotiable rule. Think about it. If you slap a heavy 3mm string on a low-power electric trimmer, you're going to massively increase the aerodynamic resistance. This totally overloads the clutch and will literally overheat and destroy your transmission. Seriously, don't do it. Conversely, if you try using a super thin 1.6mm string on a high-powered professional gas trimmer, the string is just going to instantly snap under the immense centrifugal force. Always match the thickness to your specific machine's weight class. All right, section 3, safety and preliminary steps. Before we even think about touching that trimmer head, we need to prep our workspace. Remember, we're dealing with a machine designed to slice through things at over 8,000 revolutions per minute. So, first things first, gather your tools. You're going to need your correctly sized string. Usually you want to cut a length between 2 to 5 meters depending on your specific spool's capacity. You absolutely need safety glasses to protect your eyes from random flying debris and a pair of sturdy protective gloves. Grab a metal locking pin, or honestly an Allen key works totally fine, to lock the gear shaft. Oh, and keep a flathead screwdriver handy just in case the trimmer head gets jammed up with dirt. Make sure you gather this entire arsenal before you begin. Next up are the absolute 100% non-negotiable safety disconnects. Step 1, turn off the engine and lay the machine horizontally on a nice, stable surface. Step 2, you need to physically isolate the drive system so there are no accidental startups. If you're running gas, pull off the spark plug boot. Battery-powered, physically click out and remove that lithium-ion battery. Electric, unplug it from the wall. Don't skip this. Finally, step 3, insert your metal locking pin into the little side hole of the gearbox. Slowly turn the head until you feel that pin slide in and lock the gear shaft firmly in place. Which brings us to Section 4, our step-by-step replacement guide. Now for the main event. Based on the manufacturer specs from leading brands like STIL, Husqvarna, and Honda, there are 3 distinct winding methods depending on the specific hardware on your machine. Let's kick things off with Method A, which is the traditional standard spool. First, press the plastic clips on the sides of the housing to pop off the cover, and just pull out the inner spool. Cut your 2 to 5 meters of string, and hey, a quick word of caution right here. Do not overfill the spool. Putting too much string in there pretty much guarantees a tangled nightmare later on. So fold your string exactly in half, hook that middle loop into the little groove on the central divider of the spool, and start winding both lines tightly, side by side in the exact direction indicated by the arrow on the plastic. Sticking with Method A for a second, once you wound it all up, leave about 10 to 15 centimeters of string hanging off the ends. You're going to temporarily click those ends into the little notches on the side of the spool. This just stops it from unwinding in your hands while you work. Drop the spool back into the main housing, thread those 2 ends out through the metal exit eyelets on the sides, and snap the cover firmly shut. Finally, give those strings a sharp, quick pull to snap them free from the temporary notches. Do a quick little pull test just to make sure the lines are sliding freely, and you are good to go. Now, if you are lucky enough to have a newer, higher-end head, you might be using Method B, the comfort winding method. This applies to super popular heads like the STIL AutoCut C or the Milwaukee Easy Load. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates how modern engineering saves you from ever having to disassemble the head. You simply align the arrows on the bottom bump knob with the eyelets, feed your pre-cut string straight into one eyelet so it shoots straight out the other side. Pull it right on through until both ends are perfectly equal in length. Then, just grab the bump knob and twist. The internal mechanism automatically winds the string onto the spool perfectly for you. Stop winding when you have about 12 to 15 centimeters left. It is literally that easy. And finally, we have Method C, which is for fixed-line heads, like the steel DuraCut. This method relies on rugged, absolute simplicity, and it's perfect if you're clearing rocky, severely overgrown areas. Guess what? There is no winding at all. You simply pull out the old, worn-out remnants from the teeth. Then, take pre-cut pieces of really thick string, usually about 15 to 25 centimeters long, and just push them straight into the self-locking mounting holes on the side of the head. The one-way mechanism bites down and holds them incredibly tight. No tools, no winding, totally fail-proof. All right, let's level up. Section 5, Troubleshooting and Pro Tips. This next part is the insider knowledge that absolutely separates the backyard amateurs from the smart technicians. Have you ever been trimming along, everything's great, you tap the bump head to feed more string and nothing happens? You open it up and the string is practically glued together inside? Well, this isn't just a random tangle. This is a crazy physical phenomenon called thermal welding. Under immense centrifugal force and the crazy friction of hitting thick weeds, the kinetic energy converts into extreme heat inside the head. We're talking temperatures hitting between 180 and 220 degrees Celsius. Because the string is made of extruded polyamide, which is basically nylon, it hits its softening point and actually melts the layers of string together, completely blocking the feed mechanism. So how on earth do we stop thermal welding? Well, here is the absolute ultimate professional secret. Wait for it. Hydration. Over time, nylon string loses its structural moisture. It just sits in your garage, becoming brittle and super prone to melting. But if you take your entire spool of polyamide string and soak it in a bucket of water for 24 hours before you use it, the water molecules actually penetrate the polymer matrix. It acts as a natural plasticizer. It restores the material's elasticity, massively increases its tensile strength so it doesn't break as easily, and makes it incredibly resistant to that thermal welding friction. You can literally just store your spare spools in a bucket of water permanently until you need them. Game changer. Let's run through some rapid-fire troubleshooting for those annoying mid-job breakdowns. Line won't feed? Like we just said, you've probably got a thermal weld. Open the head up, physically cut away the melted section, and rewind it, making sure not to overlap the lines. What if you're suddenly getting severe machine-shaking vibrations? Stop immediately. Your spool is off balance. Simply pull the strings out to equalize their lengths. The built-in cutter on the plastic guard will trim them to perfect size as soon as you start it up. And what if the entire trimmer head is completely jammed onto the gearbox thread because of caked-on dirt or corrosion? Insert your locking pin and carefully use a flathead screwdriver as leverage to break the seal. Just remember to twist clockwise to loosen it, because it is almost always a left-handed thread. And that brings us to Section 6, Conclusion and Safety Disclaimer. Okay, we have covered the physics, the core mechanics, and the top-tier pro secrets. So let's quickly lock in what we've learned today. The crucial takeaway is to remember these 4 pillars of success. Number 1, always physically disconnect the power before doing anything. Number 2, match your string diameter to your engine's power class to protect your transmission from frying. Number 3, know your hardware so you aren't fighting with a comfort spool like it's a standard spool. And number 4, remember that hydration trick. Soaking your string is going to drastically increase its lifespan and your efficiency. Now, just a quick professional reminder here. While these steps cover the vast majority of trimmer heads from the big players like Stihl, Husqvarna, and Honda, you must always defer to the specific guidelines laid out in your manufacturer's manual. At the end of the day, they are the final word on the correct operating procedures and safety protocols for your exact model. If this explainer saved you a headache and helped you finally conquer your trimmer spool, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are constantly doing these deep dives to decode the hidden engineering behind your everyday tools. And definitely share this guide with a friend or neighbor who you know is probably out in their yard right now, totally frustrated and fighting with a tangled spool. I'll leave you with this final thought. Yard work should never be a battle against your own equipment. When you understand the mechanics, you always have the upper hand. So I want to hear from you down below. What other frustrating piece of garden machinery should we decode the engineering secrets of next? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and happy trimming.